want to start with thanking everybody here to take the effort to come to Leuven, or to come to the event. It's not simple times, I think, with COVID, with other meetings, with holidays. I have the impression that many people started their holidays early this year, because after COVID and the whole recovery and charging batteries, we all need a good break and a good holiday. Those who are here today, fantastic. I want to start with the ladies. One lady in particular, Heidi Rakels. Thank you for being here. Heidi is appointed in our board of directors since last meeting, and she will help us to grow Xenit in terms of the SaaS and the product offering that we're bringing. Heidi has been the founder and I think CEO of Guard Square, which is a fantastic growth story. Still is in Leuven, from Leuven, with Android security. So I think all of that is very relevant experience to what Xenit wants to achieve. But there are other people here. I mean, it's not a big event. It was also an inner circle event, so it's more about quality than quantity as of today. We have Hans de Bakker from our board present here. A few guests. I made a little list. First of all, of course, the Xenit teams, or not first of all, but the Xenit teams. We have the team Turing, team Carmack, and team Shannon present today. A few people already had booked and reserved holidays. I did a bit of shifting with the dates, so I'm to blame, but almost everybody is here, and that's great. I think it's also for us to celebrate the 15 years. All of Xenit, fantastic that you are here. You're part of the inner circle. So the place is here today. We have some of the guests. I've seen already Luc van Genechte van the Crius Group. There is Wim Daams of IDW. Thank you, Wim, for joining us. There is Mario van Dijk coming still, I guess, on the list. Two guests from SD Works, Joris Beck and Tommy Thijs. Very much welcome. We have one of our alumni, Willem van den Einde, who is now in 3D printing. Welcome, Willem. And we have Jan van den Abele, Erik Jansen van Vortex Financials, a very good partner of us, building the broker content platform. So it's lovely to have you here today. And then we have also Matthias van Heddegem, who will presenting for Patronale, one of the use cases. We will have two use cases. One is Patronale, broker content, together built with Vortex Financials. And the other one is Neutra, which is a neutral, the name says it, health insurance organization in Wallonie. Jean-François Berger, who is the IT director, is already off in holiday, but François will present that case. Brings me to slide number 2. Sorry? So I missed Koen Vermeulen. I missed Koen. That's not possible. I excuse. Thank you, Toon. Did I miss somebody else? Because Koen was not in my list. I subscribed him myself. And that's the reason. Oh, you have to register. No, Koen, my mistake. You're there. Very good. So today is a bit of a story about the cloud, but maybe more about doing things as a service, content services. We have our history, and I will look back on the past 15 years, but I think it's much more important to look forward on the next 15, if you like. Well, when you build archives, you tend to think on the long term, not on the short term. So you always introduce this kind of technology with the long term in mind. It is, as I say, I think it's more about the service quality, as your service, at your service, as a service, whatever you like. But I think not as a service, but as your service. It still remains important to be customer focused and to create a service that fits very well to the needs of our customers. To start off with, I want to bring a little bit of a context, because before Xenit started, there were already some Belgian pioneers in cloud computing, and with a lot of imagination. But the two attempts that I will describe, welcome, the two attempts that I will describe, I will call them, let's say, fantastic failures. Before Xenit started in 2007. But they are really fantastic. Hergé had the great idea to send the Belgian team to the cloud, but they overshot and went to the moon. Bad idea. There is no business on the moon. You should have stayed in the cloud. They had to wait 19 years. That album dates from 1950, 19 years before actually Neil Armstrong visited them. But the idea was already there in 1950 to go to the cloud, overshoot, unfortunately. But a second Belgian genius, comic writer, had a better idea. In 1960, Suske and Wiske actually launched cloud business, and they got there. The only problem is, as we Belgians do, we turn cloud into food and horeca instead of doing business and computing on it. Better attempt. What you already see is that Lambic has to fight off the tech giants that are attacking us. So we have a kind of a habit as an underdog to work against, or sometimes with, the big giants. That history apart, next step in 2007, on a more serious note, not that serious, but we started the company in 2007 with the idea and with a lot of energy and enthusiasm for open source. And that has not gone away. I think that we still believe, and I do understand that the model has changed. Is open source still important and relevant? I think very much, even more. Even though software is being delivered as a service in the future, it is built with open source. Those great offerings are built with open source, and we're very happy that we have that in our DNA and our pedigree, and we will continue to follow that line for our own work, and of course, working together on open source frameworks. That remains in our DNA. We had the pleasure, and also I would say, the effort, the blood, sweat and tears in the first year of realizing the archives for PMV and Brutex. It was a challenge, but I think thanks to the sense of partnership that existed at that time, we pulled it through together. And I think it's also about commitment, about working together with the customer, because this was Alfresco 2.1, not very important, but every week the word Lucene was mentioned by the management of PNV. How are you progressing? But I think then, again, the commitment to make it work, and this was an archive of less than, actually there were 4 archives, less than 10 million documents together, but it was, well, a bit of a battle, but it succeeded when we had to deliver it. Brutex was a challenge as well for other reasons. Both are still customers with us. So that's a long time ago, and I think we can be very proud of that partnership. In 2010, we used the big horn, and we got a lot of audience. We launched Alfred Desktop. Fred called at that point. There was really a big need, I think, for collaboration and classical document management on top of Alfresco. We had about 250 companies attending a webinar at that point, which is extraordinary. I think it showed a big need for usability in solutions. The customers that we served at that point, Trafigura, Stadwerken München, City of New York, État de Vaud, OOWV, Oldenburgse Waterverzorgingsgesellschaft, the Environmental Protection Agency in Australia, Pension Fund in Canada, and it's not an extensive list. So it really allowed us, I think, first to get some acquaintance with product development, product management, rolling it out, and it got us international exposure as well as a company. In 2014, we started evolving from less user interface and usability towards what we call the Alfred stack. We have a number of products under the Alfred stack, more geared towards operational excellence. You could see the market already evolving at that point, let's say the collaborative market going more towards SharePoint. Office 365 did not exist at the point, but SharePoint certainly. for collaboration on documents. And then the, let's say, the transactional and the large archive case was much more suited to Alfresco. Means that products like Alfred Inflow, Alfred Object Connector, that is to connect Alfresco to object storage and to make sure that documents flow in at a good rate. Those were the products that we were focusing on. Alfred Finder, Alfred Ops, and Edge came later. Products, again, one for user interface and finding. A typical archive needs a good search interface. That's why Finder is there. It's less of a, let's say, collaborative interface. It's search, find. And Ops is everything that has to do with operational excellence. That's observability, whatever. Making sure that our customers are at ease when we run large archives. This is the product line. That slide hasn't changed for a few years. You can see that some of those products are about user interface, others are about integration. And Alfred Archive is, I think, our bundling of running Alfresco at high volumes and high loads in operational environments. 2016, another milestone. We went much more to provide managed services to the customers, and really at scale. Of course, if you look at a number of the insurance customers we have, if you take together all the documents, I think today, if I'm not mistaken, PMV has more than 100 million documents managed in the archive. But with ETIAS, we started with 60 million documents in one Alfresco, and that has now grown beyond 160 million documents. By end of year, I assume we're going to be very close to 175 million documents. That's actually an important point, because then you need another shard in your search technology to cope with that. We also had MNT, Mutuelle Nationale Territoire, 20 million documents, grown today to 65 million documents. 2019, SPW, thanks to our partnership with NRB, came on board. The number is missing on the slide. It was about 10 million, 7 million, thank you, Francois, and it has kind of tripled by now. I haven't counted them exactly. I don't count them by hand, but this is an approximate number that is pretty close to the total volume in the system. Managed systems become the default. Software as a service, we see that with our customers. I think that in the early days, Alfresco was kind of build it and run it yourself. Philosophy. Today, managed services is the default. It requires so much expertise to do things properly that you actually need to partner there and run it like that. From 2020, I wanted to mention this case. We migrated in 2020 also Oxford University Press to AWS. So that's the first moment of being exposed to, let's say, a public cloud. Not particularly because we are also running RGF Belgium on Azure, for instance. No, I'm sorry, Belgium on AWS, Holland, RGF Holland on Azure. So we have some exposure to the public clouds there and learn what that kind of technology means and the complexity you have to cope with. Those are a few of the names. There are Belgian names, the Content Cloud. We'll be talking about the new offering in a minute. Content Cloud customers are not yet here on this slide. These are Alfresco customers, and we are, of course, very happy to serve them at best capabilities. These are in Belgium. Those are some customers in abroad. Again, MNT, large archives. I mentioned Oxford University Press, Stadtwerke Munich. Via Accenture, we work for the Irish Police. DG Energy and Concilium as European institutions, where we also help them with Alfresco re-engineerings. Now then comes 2022. Well, that's now, isn't it? And we have been working for a few years, and we are launching a new offering, which we will call for the moment, Cognitive Content Cloud. We are finding a brandable name and a short name for this. But the 3 words, Cognitive Content Cloud, try to convey what the product is about. It's of course about content and documents. It is cloud-based, primarily as a service. And the cloud actually allows you to scale if you do it well, if you can handle the complexity. And we have embarked on this adventure and this development since 2020, basically. Cognitive, of course, it's about cognitive capabilities. You could also say intelligent. Well, it's another C, CCC. So it sounds not too bad with content and cloud. But it is, about, of course, about artificial intelligence and machine learning, because that has a great potential to improve the quality of metadata, to automate processes, etc. Where should we play? We're launching this product. Why and what, I will explain. But where should we be active? If you look at the 3 cases, collaboration on content, that's more the to-be situation. We discuss about a contract we want to conclude. We discuss about a product we are developing. So this is all very active, very lively information, changing information. That is a world apart. Number 2 and number 3 is where classically we fit in very well with our customers. That is a transactional content. When you have outbound and inbound systems, systems that generate content very often generated by other systems and not by people, they come into our processes, we handle that, and then we send and communicate to other vertical applications. The example in the insurance world, for instance, claim documents come in, they have to be processed. That's a transaction that comes in, and those documents are very lively and they're very much needed and relevant while the claim is being treated by the customer. Of course, at some point, those documents get into the retention layer, and then we have to keep them. And while being in a transaction phase, it could even be necessary to change data, because, for instance, we get a bulk of documents and they're wrong, and then you have to have an easy process to correct that. At some point, when they become records, we should not be able to change them anymore, because that's the legal status of the document. So you cover 2 things. That means we're here. Those are the 2 that are important to us, because our current customers and their use cases are very important to us, and we think we live in this world. That's where Xenit is playing. Why Xenit Content Services? We could have done a lot of things, but we believe that the time is there now that we can create something that covers even better the use case of active archives for our customers. First of all, we think that's ideal when service can be delivered by the persons that create the software as well. As for now, we have a split. There is a software editor and there is a service provider, which is Xenit, which makes things sometimes harder to deliver the right service. We don't want to have too many stages here. And with the quote, I think our customers need a service level agreement and not a subscription to software. Yeah, you need, of course, support for the software that you have. But what you need is a service with service benchmarks and KPIs, etc. Software as a service is also the future. Whether you run that on your own cloud or you run it on your account on AWS or Azure, both are options. That is not so important. It's the SaaS character of making sure those solutions work every day for the customers. The use case of active archives, we believe, can be better implemented than what we have done as of today with Alfresco. You need to control the full stack, including the database, which in our case is Postgres. And we also have the feeling that, and we did scaling tests on this, scaling such an archive to 100 million documents or more should really not be an issue. It should not be an issue. You have to find the architecture that is simple and scalable. You have to strip it off everything that the customer doesn't need, that is there for collaboration, etc., and just fall back to the core of the content services that are necessary. And I think we found that point. Not all use cases fit perfectly in that case, but many fit in that case. And we certainly want to be delivering a solution as a service in that market. Our initial development was supported by Vlaio, which allowed us to tackle the hard problem, because archives per se are like not rocket science, but you have to handle the problem of access control. And access control is crucial to scale that and to do that well. Because keeping metadata of a document, with a bit of fantasy, you can do something on S3 and build an archive. But when you want to have access control right, you have to do more research. And that's what we developed here with Vlaio. It's called attribute-based access control. It's different than classical role-based access control. So this is a quite nice little graph from Suske en Wiske. Wij zijn de koks die erover waken dat de wolkjes niet tussen uw tanden kraken. And actually, Suske en Wiske like it. Okay, so in 2022, I've announced Content Cloud here, Cognitive Content Cloud. We think after 15 years, we entered the University of Content Services. That guy is actually the inspiration for Professor Zonnebloem. In English, it's Professor Calculus. And why 15 years? 3 years of kindergarten, 6 years of primary school, and 6 years of high school. Then you enter university. Did we graduate already? No, and we won't be graduating either, because this changes always. Security changes, scaling changes, architectures are changing. So you really have to follow up with the state of technology, and we will be staying in university. I guess we like it there as well, but we need to get real products, of course, in the world. Principle number 1, we continue to build upon open source. Spring, we have some good relationships. We've already released Tongues as a framework in open source. This is what we will continue to do consistently. Number 2, we have many principles, but I just wanted to highlight groom well the elephant in the room. Here is the elephant in the room, is a fantastic open source database. We keep on having the passion for open source, I guess, also because the business model fits well. But this is production critical, high volume, with many, many customers. This scales to hundreds, thousands transactions per second if you know how to do it. So this is just a fantastic building block. And there might be other databases and they might scale, but you make a choice. So you are not bound, not locked in, and you create the competence about this. I think in our Alfresco setups, very often we had to rely on database services externally. If it doesn't work, you're called in, because the people don't actually know what's wrong. And that means that if it goes wrong, we are involved anyway. So we better be involved from the beginning, design the database, do the monitoring, keep the tuning, or give it as a service to a cloud provider. Perfectly possible if they do a good job. But you have to know about it. You can't say we're going to tune and run a content service at high volumes and not care about the database. What do we think we fix with the Content Cloud? Well, for instance, in this new system, there is no such thing as a folder, and you have to particularly define every document in a certain type. You have to give it a metadata, that's for sure, and you can associate it to entities. We will give, in the use cases, you will see 2 examples. But I think if I have to differentiate it, it is there are no folders, and folders are not necessary for large archives. Actually, they just are in your way. You have to create them, so when you browse them, the system doesn't crash. But folders are no added value in large-scale archives because folders don't scale. And that is why I think in any reasonable mind, SharePoint is not considered as an archive because try to put 100,000 documents without foldering there. It's not really very efficient. And so we said, let's go back to entities and relationships because that's what everybody knows and that's how we want to model things. Voilà. Here is a little example of a type of model. We know the insurance world pretty well, so we often come with examples out of that world. But a policy that somebody underwrites is clear. You have a claim. Sorry about the half thing here. That's an idea of PowerPoint. But there is a policy document here. For the rest, you're not missing anything. Policy document. So you model your business and you model the documents. And that's it. And you create relationships between them that is very logical, because if you ask your architects at the company, what's the master data at the company? Well, take the most important ones that create a context around your documents, and you're fine. And that's the way how we can classify the documents. So that's the idea. With the system, once you've created a model, we generate the archive, we generate the API, the create, read, update, delete, even the search. And if you change the model, we recreate it, so it becomes very dynamic. It is also very fast in such a way. So that is the essence, I guess, of how we work. So it says, model the context of documents. You model the access rules on the same model, on the same entities. Then you model the search, and you have artificial intelligence to automate it all and to close the loop and to iterate on the model. It's the analyst, the security officer, the business, and machine learning that play a role in the whole adventure. Speed and scale, already our reporter Tintin knew that. You can scale relational databases. They are used for billions of records. We simplified the model, keep it simple, and create a unique content engine for every customer with the technology. It can go back in time. We keep the as is, but also the as was, because the as is important when you're treating documents, but then you store them in the archive. And it's made to automate thanks to artificial intelligence and machine learning at heart, because it can derive types. We will see an example of that in Neutra later on. Our ambition is to manage more than 1 billion documents in 5 years. It might be more. We manage about 400 million documents today for our customers with Alfresco-based archives. I think with the Content Cloud, that's where we can put the benchmark if we develop the product, if we continue to develop the product as it should be. Cost control and cloud. You know that it is good business to run a public cloud. Any resemblance to the Tsar of AWS is purely coincidental. But you have to take care that your costs are still under control. And that means if you run on the cloud, it's possible, with archives certainly, to be very efficient in costs. Cost of storage benefits from a scale advantage. Cost of computing benefits from the use of functions, less constantly active Tomcat and other containers. Ingress and egress are pretty optimal, because what you exchange very often are the metadata and not the documents itself. They have to get in, of course, once. And we believe that we can, if we run this as a service for the customers, create total cost of advantages on total cost of ownership of 30% or more. Also because we try to pay a lot of attention, and those parameters are actually built into the architecture that you follow up usage. It can also run on a data center of the customers, of course, at NRB, PMV, or others. But I would say that the public cloud, and certainly the as a service, is the preferred option as we bring it here. If we have to run it on another platform, we will probably be doing more work, and thus creating less cost advantage for the customers. But still, the cost advantage is there, and it's not just about the cost advantage, of course. The benchmark in terms of performance is higher. Secondly, we also believe that the pricing model should change a bit to the business. More value-based pricing, like the number of documents injected, the number of documents retained, and the number of queries and searches that you do. This is something that speaks to the business. I think it's very hard to sell something like an upgrade project, because the business doesn't really want things to change if they're running well. But we need to upgrade because of security, because the architecture starts to scratch at the edges of what is possible. You need to do those things. And then extra features could be there, digital signature, automation with machine learning, but you shouldn't be paying for the features you don't need. And the picture should be more like this. This is Lambic in a better role. They're not Bitcoins, I think. They're just regular coins spreading around. A word on the roadmap. We are looking for a trademark and a domain. We will finish that by September. In autumn 22, there will be a first as-a-service release to the market with deployments basically to Scaleway, which is our first cloud that we choose where we built the SaaS product. Can be on AWS or Azure. We will do more benchmarking, support of functions. There will be some migration toolings to help customers that think this is a good solution to help them, and for instance, applicative encryption of content to work in the most safe way. Roadmap 2, first quarter of 2023, integration in the Microsoft Office world, Office 365, Teams, SharePoint. This could be a little bit earlier. We have become partner of Microsoft recently. That is, we want to have the integration with the collaboration world, which for customers could be interesting. Also, to search for a document in Teams that is in your archive could help the commercial people of the customers. And then on the roadmap, looking at third quarter 2023 is a qualified digital archive. That means that legally speaking, we will of course work from day one in a safe way, but you need to have, let's say, the check mark of an ISO certification and anything that goes with a qualified digital archive. Just summarizing it, I think support PDF-A format, digital seals, support of retention periods, and all the respect for ISO and international norms in terms of archive. This is always a work of interpretation, because the Digital Act, for instance, that's a legal document. That's not a software specification document. So I think everybody can say, oh, we have a qualified digital archive, but then interpretation A, B, or C, what that means. To me, it certainly means that any document that is put in an archive, we can prove that it was put by somebody at a certain point exactly in that format and every bit correctly, that you can prove that. If in legal cases you have to pull this up and say, who put this document and can you prove that it was exactly that document that was stored into the archive? To me, that is a very important thing. If you have to summarize it, we must make sure that that happens. Our roadmap for Alfred, so that's Tintin again, giving him some inspiration. The two main products that we will continue to work on are Inflow, because they are business critical with our customers, high availability, but it we have to decide on migration strategies, but one of the options is that Content Cloud becomes a target for Inflow next to Alfresco, and all the work for operational excellence. That means telemetry, solar analytics, help processor. We have recently been building tools for ETIAS, NRB is not here, but tools to have analytics on searches, to know what customers are searching and what kind of timings, etc. that takes. That's interesting to know on an archive of 160 million documents, what are the return times of those queries? What kind of performance can we guarantee? Actually, it's not bad. For now, because we use sharding technology at that point, but I think we have to keep on having tools and telemetry and insight to guarantee best service. I think, yeah, well, this is the last one. Volhard in het goede. I believe that open source was part of the good. For our customers, if you're interested in this technology, we do a free proof of concept as well on migration as on scaling. If we're able to migrate it, how well will it scale? So we can give you assurance that that is a good option. VIP pricing means that we will target and try and work to make sure a migration cost is kind of comparable with an upgrade cost. Is it an upgrade of 2 major versions, of 1 major versions? I think that depends on the customer case. But we do understand that to make the business case for you, we shouldn't be introducing too much extra cost. So Cognitive Content Cloud is ready now for projects, and we are going to invest in that and continue to build, and hopefully also serve our beautiful customers even better in the future with large and scalable active archives. That's what I wanted to share.
Okay, so I'll give a short introduction on the project that has been done with Patronale. So I'm from V-Finance together with Erik. So we are a local Belgian company, active more and more also globally, but we work and we build for insurance companies and lenders and reinsurance companies. So we build the back-end systems, the systems that manage the contracts and all the payments until the end of the contract. So that's the core insurance and core banking solutions. We are so very dedicated on that. It means that we also try to find partners that are specialized in parts that we cannot do, or that are very complementary. And so in our search for a recurring question is what to do with our documents. We searched for a good partner, and that's where we ended with Xenit. And so I think the first project with Patronale is a good example of why we chose to work with Xenit, with the partnership model, and also the experience and the way of thinking together with the client to find the best application solutions. So I leave the floor to Matthias from Patronale to explain you this case.
Dankjewel, Jan. Goedemiddag allemaal. Zoals Jan al heeft laten weten, ik ben Matthias van Patronale Life. Ik ben daar Sales en Event Manager. En eerst en vooral wil ik Xenit een gelukkige verjaardag wensen. Proficiat. Misschien voor de mensen die Patronale Life niet kennen, even kort toelichten. Wij zijn dus een Belgische onafhankelijke verzekeringsmaatschappij, gespecialiseerd in levensverzekeringen. Wij hebben daarin een mooi aanbod in tak 21, tak 23 en tak 26. En vooral onze tak 21 behoren wij tot de toprendementen van de Belgische markt. Nu, waar zijn wij begonnen? We zijn in 1926 begonnen. Ik weet niet of dat sommigen onder jullie vaak in de Bedaardstraat in de file staan. Nu, je hebt daar een klein huisje, daar is het allemaal begonnen. Als je de volgende keer daar staat, moet je maar eens kijken. Daar zijn we begonnen voordat we verhuisd zijn. Nu, we zijn in 1926 begonnen als hypotheekmaatschappij. We begonnen met kasbonds. Kasgeld werd opgehaald en dan geïnvesteerd in hypotheken om de klant een mooi rendement aan te bieden. Daarna hebben de huidige aandeelhouders in 2002 alles overgenomen en vandaag de dag zijn wij een bedrijf met ondertussen 1,7 miljard euro aan balans totaal. Een mooi getal zou ik zeggen. Nu, net als de rest van de verzekeringssector staan wij voor een grote uitdaging in digitalisering. We zijn op zoek naar ontwikkelingen en oplossingen die breed gebruikt kunnen worden met een clean architectuur als basis en focus op goed werkende basisinfrastructuur en integratie in één core-based systeem. Waarom zijn we daar naartoe op zoek? Als wij portefeuilles overnemen of bedrijven, is het belangrijk voor ons dat wij die kunnen integreren in ons systeem in samenwerking met Vortex. Zodat wij niet, zoals we soms tegenkomen bij andere maatschappijen, met 15 verschillende systemen naast elkaar zitten en dat tot problemen leidt achteraf als er onderzoek moet gebeuren. En zoals wel gekend in de financiële sector, door de regelgeving zit met een groot aantal documenten die bij dossiers komen kijken, zowel bij hypotheken als verzekeringen. En wordt dat eigenlijk een hele administratieve malenmolen die wij willen vereenvoudigen. Dit is zo'n voorbeelddocument die wij aan onze makelaars moeten aanleveren. Nu, op deze slide is het een beetje een pixelfeest geworden, maar dat is een waardestand van een klant. Dat moet maandelijks worden doorgegeven aan de klanten en aan de makelaars. Om eigenlijk een idee te geven wat de waarde is van een contract. Dit is maar een van de voorbeelden van de documenten die wij moeten beschikbaar stellen aan de makelaars en ons cliënteel. Maar daar komen we straks even op terug bij ons voorbeeld. Nu, wat zijn voor ons de voordelen en belang bij documentenbeheer in platforms? Het zijn vooral de processen en verwerking tussen maatschappij en makelaars vereenvoudigen en versnellen. Als ik bij een makelaar op bezoek ga, is de eerste frustratie of het eerste waar ze het meest over klagen, is over de administratie. Er komen heel wat documenten bij kijken bij een verzekeringscontract en makelaars steken liever hun tijd in commerce dan in heel die administratieve malenmolen. Nu, daarnaast komt er natuurlijk voor de maatschappij ook efficiëntie kijken. Er worden heel wat kosten bespaard door met een efficiënt beheerssysteem te werken voor documenten en ook makkelijk beheer. Daar komt een stuk metadata op de hoek kijken dat we straks even gaan zien. Los daarvan hebben we ook het regelgevende waar ik daarnet het even over had. Dat is de archivering. We moeten van onze toezichthouders documenten lang bijhouden. Om een idee te geven, de aankoopakte die u ondertekent bij de notaris en de kredietakte, wij moeten die 30 jaar archiveren. Ook 10 jaar na het afsluiten van uw kredietakte moeten wij die nog bijhouden ter inzage als de fiscus of andere organen daar vragen over hebben. Dus daarom is het heel belangrijk dat we dat deftig kunnen archiveren en ook makkelijk kunnen oproepen, moesten daar controles in gebeuren. Dan hebben we ook de gebruikservaring en stabiliteit, daarin dat we samen zijn gaan werken met Xenit. Die documenten, daar zit metadata in, wat het voor de makelaars en voor ons in de front office makkelijk maakt om gegevens te gaan opzoeken op dat platform. En bijkomend hebben we natuurlijk ook de stabiliteit, dat is meer op vlak van security. Dit is zo'n voorbeeld van een platform dat mensen van Xenit hebben ontwikkeld samen met onze leverancier van Vortex. Zo kan je zien, eenvoudig platform, want de makelaar vraagt daar niet zoveel om, waar de makelaar makkelijk kan zien welke klant heb ik, wat is het type contract en wat is het bedrag dat daarbij hoort. Zo kan een makelaar eigenlijk, als een klant langskomt voor bankzaken of zo, maar zegt, nu dat ik hier toch ben, wil ik graag mijn levensverzekeringscontract eens bekijken, kan de makelaar dat eigenlijk op eenvoudige wijze even oproepen en zien, dat is de actuele waarde van uw contract op dit moment. Nu gaan we iets riskant doen, we gaan een demo doen. We hebben geleerd van Tesla en Apple dat dat soms kan mislopen, maar ik heb hier een IT'er naast mij staan. Zo doen de echten dat ook. Ik ga de presentatie even afsluiten. Ja, ziezo. Dit is dus het voorbeeld van het platform dat we ontwikkeld hebben samen met de mensen van Xenit. We gaan hier even live een upload doen van de documenten. Dit is bijvoorbeeld een proces dat wij maandelijks moeten doen. Dus maandelijks laden wij de waardestanden op, zodat de makelaar ieder weet, dit contract is deze maand zoveel waard. Even zien. Wacht even. Ja. Zie, zoals je ziet, dat is heel snel gegaan, die upload. Nu gaan we kijken of de documenten er mooi op staan bij de account states. Ja. Oei, incoming call. Decline. Ik weet niet of die klant dat zo leuk gaat vinden. Dus hier, dat is langs onze kant dat wij dat kunnen zien als beheerders. Heb je het overzicht van alle uploads die gedaan zijn, de bijbehorende documenten. Je ziet dat is redelijk snel verlopen. Oké, als voorbeeld hebben we maar 50 documenten gebruikt. In de realiteit gaat het over, zeker in onze tak 21, hebben wij veel klanten. Het gaat over 10.000 documenten. Het duurt iets langer, maar geeft u een idee hoe vlot dat verloopt. Dan kan een makelaar gaan kijken, dat is dan aan de kant van de makelaar dat hij dat ziet. Je kan eigenlijk gaan kijken naar de waardestanden per maand. Dus we gaan nu de maand juli nemen als voorbeeld. Dit zijn trouwens allemaal anonieme contracten, dus je gaat niemand herkennen. Dus heel simpel, eigenlijk als er een klant langskomt bij een makelaar, kan die hier bovenaan gaan kijken. We gaan hier iemand naam nemen, bijvoorbeeld Hopkins, die we hier zien staan. Zegt, klant Hopkins komt langs. En dan krijgt hij direct eigenlijk te zien welk type contract hij heeft. Het kan zijn dat hij natuurlijk meerdere contracten heeft. Hoeveel dat op dit moment waard is, deze maand. En dan kan hij eigenlijk op eenvoudige wijze even snel gaan kijken. Hoe zit het met dit document? Hij doet niet de preview, maar de download. Ik ga het even laten zien. Daarnet heb ik een voorbeeld laten zien met de waardestanden. Zo zien onze documenten eruit. Deze is even om een simpel voorbeeld te geven. Dat is eigenlijk de metadata die je ook op het startscherm kan zien en daarin kan herkennen. Zodat de makelaar alles makkelijk terugvindt. Uiteraard kan ik Xenit daar aanpassingen in doen. Hè? Zijn er nog aanvullingen die je daar kan bijgeven? Nee. Goed, dan ga ik even terug naar de presentatie. Deze. Terug dicht doen. Ziezo, dat was een korte getuigenis van aan de kant van Patronale. Moesten jullie zelf interesse hebben in een tak 21, dan weten jullie me altijd te vinden. Hè?
Thank you well, Matthias. So I'm going to switch back to English. what I'm going to show you now is how this actually was built. So the application that Matthias has demoed here, how this was built with Content Cloud. In Content Cloud, we have Content Cloud, we call it the console. It's an application where you can manage and build, model your applications. Like Ronnie explained in the intro, Content Cloud is based on a model. We are not building or coding applications from scratch. We start from a data model. And the data model for this broker content website is rather simple. We have a zip file. Matthias has shown you can upload a zip file, and a zip file has a few properties, like a file name created at a certain point, and it points to a file itself. And it's uploaded by an insurer, as in the user that is able to upload the files here is working for a given insurer, and that's metadata from the user profile. So when the user uploads the zip file, the system can already record this data in this model. When the zip file is uploaded, there is a process in the background which extracts all the PDFs from the zip file, and all those PDF files are account states. Account states are, again, entities in this model, and they have properties like the value date and the name and the account ID and the contract type. And it's also linked to a given broker and an insurer. The insurer is the insurance company who uploaded the zip file. And in that zip file, there were documents for multiple brokers. So when the broker is, I'm switching the profile here to a broker, can only see documents that are assigned to him, namely where the document in the model links to his broker user profile. Which means we can model this application with just a few entities and attributes and relationships between those attributes. I'm going to show relations. The account state has a link to the broker and the insurer. With just those properties, we can generate a full application with a REST API, so a full backend, only based on this model. In addition to this data model, Ronnie already explained, we need to be able to set permissions on these entities as well. So I've got permission rules here that says I'm able to see a given document when the document is linked to the insurer, which is the same as in my profile. So a user works for a given insurer, namely Patronale in this case, and is able to see all the documents that have a link to Patronale. Additionally, when I switch my profile to a broker, I'm able to see all the documents which are linked to my to the broker to the user property, which has the link to the broker. Sorry, messed up there. And based on those two models, namely the data model and the permissions, we can generate a full application with a REST API, which we can show here. So I've got a REST API to create account states and to create zip files and to query for brokers, etc. And that's all fully model-driven from this application. Sorry, from this console. And the next step is that I would be able to deploy this application I've modeled here, built here, to a cloud environment. And in the second step, I can change my data model. For example, I could get a new requirement. Let's say for each document, I want to be able to add comments to this document. How would I go about to model this? I can go into my data model, and I could add an entity which has, in Azerty, comment. And a comment, for example, should have, let's say, an author, the person, again, Azerty. should have an author, and the comment should have a, let's say, the content. And every account state should have a relationship that says I'm adding comments to this account from the account state to a comment, and one account state has multiple comments, which adds this relation to the model. When I'm going to publish my model, I'm saying I've got here version 1 or 2.0. And I added comments here. So now I got a new version of my application, and I'm just going to show that the REST API adapted, and I should be able to add comments here to my application using this new endpoint. Next step, of course, would be deploying the application again, but that's not for this demo now. And I think I'm going to wrap up here. I'm going to show this console again for the after the next session to show the how it's modeled there. Okay, thank you.
This is the last part of the presentation, I promise. So now we will present some use case of one of our newest customer, Neutra. Neutra is an healthcare insurance in the south of Belgium. They're based in Liège. We started our journey with them last year, nearly 1 year from now. They had an issue, is that their current provider of the guy who was scanning and retaining all their incoming mails were shutting down their activities, at least they stopped the service. And we had nearly 2 months and a half to prepare a new solution for them. And in that project period, we needed to migrate all their documents. And it's a really interesting customer for us because they have a really nice vision, long-term vision. They have new projects, new ERP projects. They will innovate in their IT architecture, sorry. So it was really interesting for us. And by the time, we needed to make a choice. Do we go for our well-known Alfresco solutions, or do we go for the future Content Cloud, which by the time was not yet ready, I think. So it was a, let's say, difficult call for us. Maybe not so difficult for the team. They were really convinced that we could do it with our Cognitive Content Cloud, and that's what we did, and it was a success for us and for the customer. We will show we built a custom user interface on top of Content Cloud just for them. Joost will demo that with me in a few moments. And we respected the deadline, the 2 months and a half. The solution was ready. And I must say the most difficult part in the project came after the beginning. We just discovered that all the documents we needed to migrate were stored as images of pages. So we needed to rebuild all the documents to store them in PDF to respect long-term archiving. And the team did a huge effort to be on time, and we were. Cherry on the cake, we will show that for you. It's not the first, but the second project where we implemented some AI features to help the customer. We have now machine learning algorithms that are working every day to extract some metadata. Because if we go for long-term archiving without any foldering, we need our data to be really clear perfect. If you want to search on it, they need to be exact. We will show that also just now with Yoast. So Yoast is the main developer of the nice application you will see, not the backend, but he was responsible for the front-end part. We have a really great team that worked on the backend also. So the first thing first, what we want to show is that with an archive solution, you want to find your documents. So here you have the list of all the documents you can find. I think they are now filtered on the date, but we can prepare it as we want for a customer. Yeah, we can filter. We have a pagination on the bottom, so you can find in the other pages. But maybe first we will show that you can preview your documents. It's a real-life example from which we removed all the personal information. We never disclose any GDPR information from our customers. It's important for us. So you can play with the preview. I think you can also go full screen if you want. One of the first impression of the customer was that the application was 10 times faster than their legacy application, even if here what you see is really simple. So we have that table. When we can find information, we will need also to search for it. So we built some filters, a search panel here that's called the quick filters. Why? Because you have here the main metadata they are searching on. So it's a contract ID, it's a customer ID, it might be the national register of a person, if you don't remember his ID, in fact. And you can also search on dates. I think if we click on a date, we can then search on a range of dates directly. So those are the quick filters, but we have more advanced filters if we want. There you can search for any other searchable informations, metadata, whatever, that are not used every day, but they are here. We will show later on what we can do with the small validation metadata. What we can also do is to add some notes on documents, yeah, or change the columns also. The table here is, we have that model behind. Toon will show that, so already showed for the previous example. We can adapt the table on all of the metadata we have in our model. So the customers can add some new columns, filter on it, search on it. Yeah, we can add some notes. It was a feature requested by the customer. It's exactly the same as Toon showed. It's a comment on, here it's a one-to-one. Toon showed is it back? Yeah. What can we show also is the full text search probably, or so even if it's dead. Sorry. We try to speak louder. Even if we are relying here on PostgreSQL, which is a relational database, we can still search on full text. As Joost just showed, he searched for Alan, and you can find back in the document Alan Turing, which is a customer of Neutra. And also the father of one of our team. Last but not least, metadata are important, but you can and you need to modify them at some point. So we have a small panel that allows us to change all the metadata that. Thank you. All the metadata that maybe are wrong. What you need to know is that all those incoming documents are scanned beforehand. In the scanning process, we try to detect all the values of the metadata, and sometimes we cannot. And then you have two possibilities. The first is to change it by hand, and we will show afterwards there's another way that our application can work to make our metadata, let's say, more correct. Have we gone through everything? Yeah, yeah. We can show the upload of a new documents. Neutra is not for now uploading documents through the UI. Like I said, all documents are coming from the scanning process. We have nearly 40,000 documents per month, I think. But here, if you upload a document by hand, what is implemented is a small machine learning algorithm that will try to extract at least the most important information, which are here the doc type and the subtypes. So Neutra is working like this. They're working with types, tarification dentaire, tiers payant, admin, and subtypes, which are for tarification dentaire, for example, quittance or documents renvoyés, documents that are coming back from the customer. Here it's an example. Our algorithm says that is 100% confident that the type is tarification dentaire and the subtypes is a quittance. It has been trained on fake data, so that's why he's really optimistic. But sometimes he can also, here, for example, he says there is 0 chance that's an admin document, but if it was an admin document, it would be at 8% chance resiliation. Second part here is that we've extracted what is really important for Neutra is the date of the document. When has this document been sent to our customer? And here is the 20th of October last year. And last thing, we can say to the application, okay, I want to use that metadata, or maybe it's machine learning, we still might be wrong, and then we can skip and enter manually all the data. Last thing we will show is that sometimes from the scanning we receive missing metadata, documents that are missing some values, and if you want to search, you need those values. So what's happening is that the application tag those documents as a validé. So there's a special field for that. And so if we have a document a validé, there the application will automatically, in the background, do the same as when we upload a document. The application will, you can I think show it, will directly propose the good types and the good subtypes. Here what we see is that the document is of type admin, subtype bank, but what we detected is that, once again, 100% confidence for that, it's a tarification of hospi and quittance. Same for the date. We have a date in August and we detected something in June. And we can apply the corrections. I think that's it for our demo. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Francois. And Joost, sorry. I'm going to show you briefly how this is modeled in Content Cloud again. So we have the same data model. You have an archive document, which is the main document that contains a lot of data. it's hardly readable on the screen, but on the, so there's metadata, but not all metadata is searchable. We have in the model here, I can indicate which properties are actually searchable, and what happens in the background is for these properties we generate database indexes, we adopt the REST API endpoints, so those can be passed as query parameters, and that just happens with a small checkbox. Additionally, we were able to search on the content itself, and what happens for the content is when a user uploads a piece of content, there is a background process which extracts the content, and it creates here a full text search object, which is just a text which was in the PDF, which is stored again in the database, and it's made available through the API, which means after you upload a document, a few seconds later, the content is extracted and it's available in the database and available in the API, and you can actually search for that right away. And very similar to the previous broker content use case, we have a few access policies who can read documents. It's an attribute-based access control, but you can still use roles if you want to. Let's say who can read this document. Well, the super user can read everything, but a normal consumer can, according to this rule, only see documents which were not deleted. What it means is we have a like a soft delete system. When a document gets archived, it gets marked in the database as deleted, and it functions as a soft delete. Only an admin user or a super user can now recover the document and maybe restore that or clean it up completely. And in the very same fashion, I can publish my application and in the end deploy this application, and it should be fully functional just with this model, with the data model and the permissions. Thank you.